Okay. I want to turn back to Helen's poetry, The Gifts of God. I think as many of you know, these were poems that Helen had written down during the course. The first half of them were actually written while she was, during the period she was taking down the course, and then the last half were written afterwards. They all share all the thoughts and themes of the course in different ways. Helen felt that taking these poems down was different from taking the course down. She felt that in the poems that she consciously had more of a say, and it was like more of her voice with Jesus. In fact, some of the poems really the I would be Helen, other times it would be Jesus. And she felt more of a freedom to kind of tamper with the poems than she ever did with the course. Now, she didn't really change the poems other than to do a little minor editing if she felt that the meter wasn't quite right, or she didn't like a phrase or something. So, but the poems really basically came the same way as the course did. There were groupings of the poems. Some of the groups dealt with Christmas, some with Easter, and some, like this one, really crosses both of them. And the poem I want to read to you is The Resurrection and the Life. It was the last poem, or almost the last poem Helen had written. I think she had written one more after this. It was written actually on New Year's Day in 1978. It's a strange poem in the sense that it is really two poems. It's 7 stanzas, the one poem, and they all share the same rhyme scheme, a very complicated rhyme scheme. There are 6 lines in each stanza, and the 2nd, 4th, and 6th line all rhyme. So there is a unity of form, but the content is different, and Helen insisted they were 2 separate poems. In fact, I remember in her original typing of it, when I went over it with her, she actually drew a line between the 4th and 5th stanzas. For some reason, the poem was printed here as one poem. But I'm going to read you only the first 4 stanzas, because they stand alone, basically, and are a little separate from the end of it. Again, this is a poem that in many ways unifies a lot of what we've spoken about today, the whole idea of what it means to be loving and to be silent, which, of course, means silent to the ego. And again, it combines both the Christmas themes and the Easter themes. You think him dead, who rose again for you. This is Jesus. And so you cannot see the shining light in which you are delivered. Come, my child, and judge him not. He is not dead. So bright his radiance that nothing still remains obscured from heaven in the doubt of night. Or the 2nd stanza. So still the birth, now here again you get the Christmas image. So still the birth, you did not understand who came to you. Before your frightened eyes, the Lord of light and life appears to fail his promises of heaven's grace and dies forever on a cross. Nor can you see the child of hope who in a manger lies. So again, clearly the specific references to Jesus, his birth and his death, but in the larger sense, it really is a portrait of the Son of God, of which we all are. Right? That being a child of God, a child of love, a child of heaven's grace, we would have thought we would have lived eternally. And yet the ego's dream tells us that all this was a lie. And so we don't see the hope, because all we see is the darkness of death. All we see is the body, the seeming birth of the body, the end of the body through death. And life here, of course, is a crucifixion that ends in death. And we forget and don't realize that all of this is just a sham. It's all just a veil. It's not reality, it's just a dream. But within the dream, it seems to be so real, so compellingly real. Right? That we forget that we can't see the child of hope who in a manger lies. Okay, the 3rd paragraph. The wise are silent. Stand you by a while, and let the wise men show you what they see, that came of you from stillness and from peace which rest in you. But speak to them of me, and then be comforted. The living Lord has come again where he has willed to be. Right? The wise men. Now, obviously, this is a specific reference to the wise men who attended the birth of Jesus. But the wise here have nothing to do with the magicians or the magi 2,000 years ago. The wise are those advanced teachers of God who know the difference between appearance and reality. They're the ones who know what it means to love and be silent. They're the ones who stand in the midst of the ego's darkness, of the ego's battleground in which blood is spilled all over the place, the ego's world of specialness, of hate and murder, deception and pain, and smile sweetly and say, this is nothing. It requires no response. It requires no correction. It requires no healing, because there's nothing there. These are the wise. That's why they are silent. So stand you by a while and let the wise men show you what they see. Right? So let us be taught by these wise men. Let us be taught by that wise man who is within us, who only wants to teach us what he knows and wants to share with us the love that comes from that wisdom. Right? And they come to you from stillness and from peace. And this stillness and this peace rests in you. It's not outside of you. So these wise men are really ourselves. This is our right-minded thought. That's what the Holy Spirit in the end is not separate from us. He is us, but not the us that we think we are. Right? And these wise men speak about Jesus, as he says, but speak to them of me, and then be comforted. All right? Because Jesus is this wonderful symbol that shows us the difference between appearance and reality. All right? His birth was an illusion. His death was an illusion. His love was not. All right? The form was nothing. You know, people idolize the form. The form was nothing. It was the love that is everything. But it's not a love that is in him. It's a love that is in the mind of God's one Son, of which we are an indivisible part. And when you are in the presence and allow yourself to be in the presence of that love, then you realize that there's nothing going on here. What's to respond to? All you simply do is that you love, you smile sweetly of that gentle laughter that says this means nothing. Right? And the final line of that stanza, the living Lord has come again where he has willed to be. That's the rebirth of the child. Christ is reborn as a little child each time a wanderer chooses to leave his home. And now the final stanza. Wait now for morning. In the silence, hear the winged whispering that hails the sun in quiet certainty and lovely calm, whom death released to life. He is the one for whom you wait. Then look again on him and join his benediction. It is done. The quiet certainty and lovely calm, whom death released to life. Right? That's what it means, once again, to be reborn. Right? That we're reborn from the ego's life, which was death. And so now we're born again by having a second chance to choose the Holy Spirit instead of the ego. Right? And at that point, then, we can look on the risen Christ. And remember what resurrection means. Resurrection is awakening from the dream of death. It has nothing to do with a physical resurrection. That's another place you could see where the church got it all wrong. It wasn't an awakening that happened in Jesus. It was an awakening that he was pointing to in each of us. But by seeing it only in him, we very nicely exclude it. So this is something that he did. And of course, he was different. He was special. He was the Son of God. But it's not something I could do. And the whole point was that the resurrection was something he did for all of us. That's why he says in Emmanuel, you were with me when I arose. When I awakened, you had to awaken, because we're all one. It was not something that was done in one man, in one historical time. It happened in the mind, and therefore the mind being outside of time and space, it happened in all of us. Right? But when we listen to the wise men, and we hear the winged whispering of that loving silence, then we are able to look again on him and join his benediction. It is done. That's the acceptance of the atonement.